evening, everybody, and how are we doing? Today is Sunday, the 2nd of March, 2023. I can't believe it. It seems like this year is really flying around. My wife says, apparently, according to the Chinese calendar, it is the year of a snake. Therefore, the year of shedding or change. I think already it is certainly the case. Now, tonight, I want to talk about something a little bit different. I want to talk about what your plans are for spring, for March, for spring in your allotment or your garden. What are you concentrating your efforts on throughout March or spring? Before we get into that, let's see if anybody is out there. And straight away, Ballycillian is there saying good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. Gary is there saying hi all. Not going to make a live show tonight, but we'll catch up later. Hope everyone is well. Hope you are well too, Gary. And thank you for watching on the replay. I'll make sure or try and remember to mention you again a little bit later on. Kate says, good evening, Veg Army. Adrian says, hi, Richard and all. Good evening to both of you. Digwell says, felicitations, fellow fine feathered floriculturists. The five Fs. Scott, seat to table plot 13 says, good evening all. Good evening to you. Stuart, evening, Richard and Veg Army. Hope we are all enjoying the sunshine. It's been lovely, isn't it? Nice bit of sunshine, just what we needed. Anna Jones is there saying, good evening, gardeners. Good evening to you. Hargrave Gas, evening all. Hope you've had a great week. Freezing cold here, but clear and bright, so getting lots done. Always the way, isn't it? I don't mind it being cold as long as it's dry. Jenny says, hello everyone, hope you're well and have been outside in the glorious weather. Still having a decent frost at night here, but lovely to be out in the springish sun. Indeed, that frost is a bit of a problem, but we won't mind that. Evening all, says Nigel, aka Money Boots, Turbo Stream. Good evening, Veg Podcasters. Good evening to you. Rebecca's good evening to you. Chili Kate, hi everyone. Good evening to you. Allotment Tool, oi oi. Good evening to you. And Turbo Stream, agree, Jenny. Very frosty here the last few nights, but lovely spring sunshine to follow. Diggle says he's just popped the heating on. Yeah, just popped the heating on. Nigel says, neat haircut, Richard. Yeah, I've got a new job tomorrow, so I wanted to go in with the right impression. I've told you I've got a new job, but just in case you're not aware, I've got a new job tomorrow. Jenny says, what my plans are, more like what aren't I planning? Complete layout of allotment and get trees in, ponds at home, and plots, seed sowing, cuttings, pruning, and coffee all in March. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's get into tonight's discussion. Now, I think this weekend, literally as soon as we hit March, the weather has improved dramatically. In the beginning of this week, I felt like we were getting a lot of rain. And then this weekend, the sun has came out. Certainly not saying that it is warm. I mean, it's been warmer. And I'm not saying that we can go and plant our plants out. It is still cold overnight. Yesterday and this morning, we had to clear the frost off the car in order to take it for a drive. But when that sun shines and the wind drops, it has been lovely. Just needed a swig of my coffee. So this brings me up to what we're going to be concentrating on tonight. And I've made a few notes so that I've got a few ideas of what I'm concentrating on throughout March. One of the things that I am concentrating on is being tidy and being organized. Now, I say this every single month, every single year. Excuse me, I've got an itchy nose again. It's certainly one of those things that I try to be tidy and organized. I always fail at being tidy, not so much the organized, but being tidy. I mean, I'll tell you a story, actually. So I've been off all week, as you know, been off for the last month, and I was tidying up our garden quite nicely. It was starting to come together. I'm not saying it was perfect, but it was just starting to look a little bit tidier. And then earlier today, I noticed my neighbours were replacing their fence panels. So I run out. I ran out there because we had a tree that needed cutting back that was going to stop them from putting their fence up. This is that big ash tree. You've probably seen it in some of my videos. So I ran out there and helped them cut down or remove some branches of that tree. And now my garden is covered with tree branches that I've now got to tidy up. But yeah, being tidy and being organized for me is a big thing that I'm concentrating on throughout March. The being organized thing, I do this every year, and actually, what I've learned over the years is that we actually get quite good at this. So, being organised, I find that if I get up in the morning, I do things in the garden before I go to work, try and plan it the night before what I'm going to do. Then I can actually get on and do a few bits before I go to work. And then on the way home, if it's light enough, which a little bit dodgy because I'll be getting home around about now, but if it's light enough, we can do work on the allotment. Again, planning ahead. So every night I'm going to sit down and just write down 1 or 2 jobs that I want to do the following day. And they're only small jobs. The bigger jobs are going to be saved for the weekends, but the small jobs every day, just do a few bits. Plan it the night before. So what's everybody saying? Turbo Stream says, certainly this sunny sunshine has kicked the sad all over the fence for a while. Indeed, let's just check Instagram as well. Plots of Fun has joined, Let's Grow Home has joined, the Kentish Gardener has joined, and the Bearded Growers have joined over on Instagram. Lovely to see you guys. Digwell says it's -3 degrees C here at night. It is still cold at night. This is the trouble with, we're getting no sunshine, no cloud cover during the day, but that also means no cloud cover at night, which is just letting that cold air in, and it's making it very, very cold. This is why we have got to be careful not to pot out any plants. Do not get sucked into that dilemma of thinking it's warm during the day, we can plant out our plants. We wait. Even our greenhouse, I'm just waiting on to get a little bit warmer before I do that. Rob says, good evening all. Hope you've had a good weekend. Hope you've had a good weekend too. Jenny says, good luck for your first day in your new job tomorrow, Richard. Thank you very much. Digwell says, this day last year, we were 3 inches deep in snow. You might have been, I would have been here. But yeah, it just goes to show you don't know how the weather is going to be at this time of year. We've still got to play it safe. I would err on the side of caution at all times. Turbo Stream says, all new haircut for the new job. Best wear clean underpants too. Oh, crikey. Yeah, I've got to wear underpants, haven't I? I'll have to think about that. Seriously, hope it all goes well. Did go a few notes. Geez, the job is getting you organised. I told you I'm getting organised. Kate says, hope you have a good first day. Thank you very much. And Turbo Stream, my main spring task this year is to tidy up my home garden into a low maintenance woodland garden. Have been transplanted hellebore seedlings. Fantastic. Fantastic. That's actually, I'd love to see photos or something along those lines of how you're getting on with that. Stuart says, my main aim for March is to catch up with all the jobs I've been unable to do in February as my garden is still very wet. You know, this is one of the things. Your garden is wet. There's no point doing anything if you're going to damage the soil. I generally sort of say the winter months for me are infrastructure jobs. When we build beds, greenhouses, etc., etc. But what that means is now we can start moving on. Nigel says, Richard should have convinced them the whole tree needs to come down out before they fit the panel. I should have done. They actually, admittedly, a few months ago, they did ask if I was going to be removing it. They weren't, I get on well, my neighbours. They were polite. They weren't stressed about it, but they just asked because it's causing a bit of light issues. And I said, I have planned, I got quotes to get it removed, and nobody's came forward at the moment. But I'm hoping we can take it down bit by bit. But yeah, should have got them to do it while the panel was down. That way it wouldn't land on my greenhouse. Turbo Stream says, if I can get my garden sorted by April, then I can concentrate on the allotment. Absolutely. This is what I'm saying. Get ahead now. Make it easier in the later spring. Evening all, says a Kentish Gardener. Good evening to you. Just a quick check on Instagram. Bearded Grower says, oi, oi, full spring here. Full spring it is a full spring. You've been naked from the waist down for a month. Longer than that. And longer than that. Oh, we won't get into that. Yeah. Jenny says, I'm rubbish at keeping a diary. Always start off well and then it dwindles off. So this year, I'm starting a garden scrapbook instead. To log sowings, ideas, notes, photos, screenshots, seed packets, etc. Phone. Take photos on the phone. That's the real key. I have to admit I'm useless at that as well. It's all up here, but yeah. Digwell says, I wake up, think sod it, roll over and have another half-hour kip. Joys of retirement. Lucky you. Chili Phil, my main plan, Chili K, sorry. That's really rude of me. I'm sorry, Chili Kate. My main plan is to get the beds ready for planting, but I also want to get the very last 2 raised beds in and a little patio for a bench. Ooh, that's some good ideas. I've been thinking earlier when I was on the allotment, I could do with a nice little bench on the allotment to sit down and record podcast and take the world as it comes. Now, we've got a few more comments. Let's get through these. Kate says, I spent today potting a border in the garden, the kind of job I find harder these days, but so happy to get it done. A border, that's lovely. I know you've recently moved house and you're starting afresh, so I'm interested to see again how you get on with that. Please do share photos as well. Hello, guys on Instagram. Hope you are well, says Jenny. Let's have a look. Turbo Stream says, currently certainly enjoyed my coffee, sat up at the top of the garden the last 2 mornings in the sun. Absolutely. Scott says, I will be catching up in March, getting the allotment ready for planting out. Still need to prune soft fruit, weed and prep the beds and fix the fence that comes down every year. Don't we know that all? Richard Gunn says, hello all, good evening to you. Turbo Stream, I did go over to the allotment and hoe the beds over. And cut back gooseberries, having to do better with rambling brambles. We'll have to use some weed killer sparingly, sadly. Yeah. Stuart Jackson says, I did start today sowing cucumber, tomatoes, and aubergines today. Second sowing. Hopefully you will sow some for our charity. Digwa says spring starts on Thursday, the 20th of March, 2025. Now, I always find this a bit of a debate, actually. When does spring start? Because I always used to go from the equinox, what I felt was the true spring from Thursday, or from the 20th of March to the 20th of June is that right? 21st of June, yeah. That was spring. But then some people tell me spring starts on the 1st of March. What is the right answer then? What is the right answer in your eyes? When does spring start? Nigel says to TurboString, can't you use loppers to get rid of those brambles? If I actually was going to suggest that as well, funny enough, you cut down those brambles and just keep on top of it, keep cutting them down, they shouldn't come back. Got to keep on top of it though, rather than using weed killer. Easier said than done sometimes, I know, but it is a case that we need to do. Now, this brings me up to something else I'm going to be concentrating a lot on throughout March, is weeding. Now, weeds now are starting to grow. They're starting to pop up a little bit more often. Luckily, I've covered most of my empty beds over with cardboard in order to reduce weeds, so that's reduced the amount of weeding. But we do have beds that are planted up with things like garlic, overwintered onions, some cabbages, some cauliflowers, and in those beds the weeds are starting to grow. So certainly down on the allotment, what I will be doing, and here at home as well, regularly weeding. Every single day, I'm going to go out, start in the same bed. Let's call it bed 1, weed that bed, and then on the second day, we'll start in that same bed, but gradually move on through all the beds. And I always start in the same bed, because what I find is that on the first day, you might spend a lot of time just doing one bed. But the second day, that one bed is only going to take a matter of minutes and you can move on. And if you keep doing it, you keep on top of the weeding and keeping those weeds down. Again, I know that's easier said than done. It is all about routine and being strict with yourself that is what we're going to do. But it works. It does work. I've found that the more we keep on top of the weeding and we follow that routine, starting in the same place and moving forward, it gets on top of our weeds, including things like brambles. I really want to try and get rid of all the brambles that we have on our allotment in particular areas that are rather difficult to get to. And I think if we can do that, we'll be happy. Now, what is everybody saying? Anna Jones says, my main job is to spread all my mulch. Never done this in spring before, usually autumn, but made a change after all last year's rain. Actually, that's something I need to do as well, put loads of compost down, particularly on the allotment. But I agree. I think it's much better to do it in the spring, just before you plant your plants out, because that's when the plants need the nutrients. If we do it in the autumn or even the winter, and then all those nutrients get washed out, the plant they're not there for the plants. So about 2 weeks before I plant my beds up, I'm going to add compost to those beds. Just 2 weeks, I think that's all it's going to need, and that should mean that the nutrients are there for my plants. Now, there's a lot of debate, I know, and I expect a lot of debate on that, but that's what I'm doing, and I think it's going to work a bit better. Digwell says meteorological is 1st of March, the spring. Yep, that's what I kind of thought. And Turbo Stream says the allotment is still too wet to do anything meaningful, so I can wait till April. This mild period is called a fool's spring. Indeed it is. Indeed it is. Chili Cake says, on the allotment this weekend, I've tidied up strawberries and weeded what will be the potato bed. At home, we've been trimming the 2 pear trees to make access for a new fence. A lot of new fences going in this week. Stuart says spring starts the 1st of March for the Met Office, 21st for everyone else. Absolutely. For me, spring starts when the hawthorn flowers. Bit of old folklore, they flower for the fairy crowning of the new spring. I've never heard that. I've never heard that one. I can't say I've noticed my hawthorns are in flower here yet, but they're certainly budding. They're certainly budding. Astronomical is the 20th of March, the one real original date. Fair enough. Fair enough. Turbo Stream says, used loppers, tried digging, tried mulching them. Nigel. Nicola, evening all, just in from putting the birds to bed and fed the ponies. Indeed, all those important jobs that we have to do. It's just started, just got dark now. Just got dark now. So that tells me at 20 past 6, it is too dark to do anything outside. So depends how long it's going to take to get home tomorrow to whether or not we will get a lot of a job done. On that note, Scott says, now we have slightly longer days. I aim to do at least 30 minutes at the allotment after work. It makes all the difference. It really does make all the difference. 30 minutes after work on your way home or even in the morning makes all the difference. Idaho, hello Richard and everyone. Hello to you. Turbo Stream spring starts at the equinox, the 20th of March for him. And Digwell sister Nigel seems to be getting back in favour. Was in display at GPE in London. I was talking about the weed killer stuff, or what was it? Where was it? I saw SBK. SBK Brushwood Killer works. Turbo Stream and Nigel also said that works as well. I skipped a few comments there because I don't want to get into that trap of reading out or spending time reading comments and not talking. Now, mulching, of course, is one of those jobs that I do need to do a lot to do in terms of laying down compost. As a no digger, it's a very, very important thing to do. I don't dig over the soil as diggers would do. All I do is lay a mulch. But getting hold of enough compost is a bit of a problem. We can produce a lot of compost here at home, but we need to produce more compost, more on the allotment. We've got lots of compost bins that are completely full, but we need to make more compost. Anybody got any tips on how to make a lot of compost on somewhere like an allotment where it's a bit harder to get organic material? One of the key things, and this might be actually the answer, one of the key things why we're able to produce so much here at home is because we have chickens. So we get lots of manure with lots of wood chip from our chickens. So perhaps we need chickens down on the allotment. Perhaps that is the answer. Anybody else got any other tips on how to produce a lot of compost on an allotment? Scott says, I do finish work at 3 p.m, so I'm lucky in that respect. Yeah, plenty of time there to get to the allotment. I say plenty of time. I don't know what you'd like, so that's a bit rude of me to say that. Apologies. Digwell says, good time to see the planetary parade. Last chance until 2040. That's where several planets line up in a row, isn't it? And if you stand and look out, you can see the planets. If you know what to look for, though, it's the only thing I would say. There are apps on your phone that do make that a bit easier. And it's well worth getting out. This is one of the great things. If you have a garden, don't ignore it at night. Don't ignore your garden at night because it's like ignoring your front room at night. Go outside and see things like that, like the planetary parade, and take photos of the moon and use your garden as what it's intended for, a place to enjoy. Stuart says thumbs up, like, follow, in, sub, etc., etc. Just for a reminder, yeah, please do give us a like, follow, subscribe, and click the notifications so you know when we go live. Nicholas says it's still light here. I think we're about 30 minutes after you, Richard. We're getting dark. Had a frost last few days. Good sunrises and sunsets. Yes, you probably are actually. I mean, I'm just looking out the window and it does look pretty dark now, but obviously I'm in here with light, so it could be different works. Digler says chop and drop works. No need to compost. The trouble with chop and drop on an allotment is that the people who inspect an allotment don't know about it and therefore may not like to do it. But chop and drop, and my understanding with chop and drop is literally you all your compostable materials, you chop it and drop it where it is. Nicholas says the wood chips that were put in my yard is compost apart from the top layer that has turned to compost. And Kate says, I'm looking for a new compost bin. It will be needed for my borders and raised beds. Best kind in your opinion? Actually, that's a good question. What is the best type of compost bin? I find this a bit of a difficult question because I like my wormeries. I like my sub pod, which is a compost bin that goes underground. That's my favourite compost bin, but they don't make them, or they don't sell them in the UK anymore. Hot bin, if you've got that way inclined, is another option, or the good old Dalek, or even a pallet bin. I'll throw that open to everyone else. What's your favourite type of compost bin? Turbo Stream says, I made a compost mix this week. John Innes #2, sieved leaf mould with fish blood and bone for pricking out seedlings. How did it go? How did it go? Now, Ballycillian says, my aim is to organise my sowing to go. I think maybe more to that. I feel you fill in what is missing there. Jenny says, I am growing compost this year. Sounds mad, I know, but I am sowing old sweet corn and squash beds. I am not expecting much from them, but any crop is a bonus. I want the foliage and stems for the compost. That's an idea. That could work. Nigel says, straw bale garden, then break them down the following season as part of the composting. That's an idea, actually. I'm not sure if we're allowed straw bales on the allotment, but that is a very good idea of something we could perhaps do to produce a lot of compost on the allotment. We did that at home and it worked very, very well. So yes, thank you, Nigel. That's exact answer. Oh, that's a great answer. Turbo Stream says, Kate, I have 2 Dalek bins. They are really good, but take a decent time to make compost. Some people hate them, but I like them. The trouble I have with Dalek compost bins is I think they look a little bit ugly. I don't think they're very good looking in a garden. And I say that because I've got 4 out of my garden and I see them and I just think they look awful. I would think it needs something that just looks a little bit better. Scott says, collect feed peelings, etc. from local restaurants for compost. I plan to get on top of making compost this year and will be taking stuff from work. That could work. I tend to put stuff like that in my wormery, which we're really using our wormery a lot. In fact, every couple of days, I'm getting a good 500 mil of compost of worm wee at the moment. So we're getting a lot of it out of there, which is good, which is, I think, good because it's a lot of plant feed that is being produced there. Jenny says, material to chop and drop. I want big mounds of chopped material. I can't compost as I can't turn or move it around. So here's my question on that, Jenny. Do you really need to turn it? I get that you need to move it around, but do you really need to turn it? And I know it is better to turn it, but it's a bit slower if you just leave it. Bally says, my aim this year is to control my sowings and go for quality rather than quantity. Good answer, actually. Good answer, because actually that's something I'm already struggling with. I've sown so many plants, so many seedlings that I'm running out of space. Hopefully, I've actually been selling some at a carbo. I talk about that a little bit later, but I've been selling some at a carbo to try and move them around and make the most out of the seedlings that we have. And it's paying off. But we are running out of space, and my wife has already taken up one of our worktops in the kitchen. I've got plants in my room. I've got a fridge in the garage that I'm adding grow lights to. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. Okay, Turbo Stream will report back on his mixes. He's not used it yet. Allotment Tool says the moon and the Venus is up at the Mo. So don't run out and look while we're doing the show, unless you take me with you, of course. Jenny says, my growing compost will also form the edge boundary to the allotment, multi-purpose. So what are you doing? Are you literally just growing materials for the foliage to go in your compost bins? That's not a bad idea, actually. I do that with green manures, but I've got a couple of beds that aren't going to be used until March. So perhaps we should just throw in some more green manures in those in order to got me thinking now. Digwell says, had to pop out and look at the sky. Moon, Venus, Jupiter and Mars are very bright. Excellent. And Toby Stream says, my Dalek bins at the top of my garden, they look better than a pallet at home. You could plant a shrub to hide them. Not really where mine are. I don't know. I just don't like the look of them. But it's something we've got to look at. Nicholas says, I'm very lucky with compost material coming out of my ears. Well, with 3 acres of land, I'm not surprised. But what is the secret to making lots of compost? Now, my next thing that and Ballysin is already, well, a couple of you already hit upon this, is sowing and pricking out seeds. This is something I'm going to be really concentrating on throughout March. We've done really well, actually, throughout the winter, throughout this. We've been sowing seeds almost on a daily basis. You may have heard, we've come up with a ChatGPT to create a load of a seed sowing plan for the entire year, a list of seeds that we sow every week. And every day, basically, I'm sowing seeds. And after I've sown seeds, I then prick more seedlings out to give us more room and then pot them up as well. So we're doing quite well. This is generally what I'm doing in the morning. It's working quite well. I get up in the morning. I've really set myself up the night before, by filling up my pots with compost. I sow the seeds, pot them in the heated propagator. I take the seedlings that are in need of pricking out. I pop them up into their bigger pots, be it plug plants or anything like that. And then I carry on with that, and we're gradually moving them along. My seed sowing, and I've done this for years, my seed sowing routine is a bit like a production line, in the sense that they start in one place, i.e. the heated propagator with no grow lights, and then they move on as they grow. They move on through the system where they either get potted on, they keep with grow lights, they get more grow lights, they move further away from the grow lights, depending on how they are and how warm they need to be. It does work. It is paying off because we are full of seedlings that are growing very, very healthily. And I mean, we've got lots of aubergines, tomatoes, chilies, peppers, cauliflowers, cabbages, herbs, loads of things like that. That are really paying off. And I'm just doing it a little bit every day, and it's paying off. Kate says, after my potting on disaster, I suspect down to rubbish compost. I have more to try again. Fingers crossed this time. So Kate, what Kate's referring to there is that was it bought compost? I believe it was compost she bought in, and she found that her plants were being killed off once they were potted up into this compost. And it's not great. It's not great at all. But hopefully it is just down to the compost. I suspect it is, from what she's said in conversations. Over on Instagram, the messy allotment tier has joined. Lovely to see you. Anna Jones says, I find our 6 Dalek bins much easier to manage than a huge single heap we used to have. Not that good for hot compost, but very pleased with them. Yeah, lots of things, isn't it? I just don't like. I don't like the look of Dalek compost bins. That's all. That's all it boils down to. I'm not saying that it's a personal choice, is all I'm saying there. Turbo Stream says, I have multi-sown onions just poking through. A small tray of lettuce has survived too. Fingers crossed. Are they in your porch? And at the moment, I'm guessing your porch doesn't get too hot. That being said, I went into my greenhouse today and it has got pretty hot. Oh. Nigel says, do you know if the compost contained green waste? Digra says, I had clopraylid poisoning from B&Q compost a few years ago. Lost a load of tomatoes. It's something to pay attention to. I was about to say get your compost from a reliable and well-known supplier, but the trouble is there's so many things that are going on. What with the change, excuse me, the changes that were meant to be happening with compost, that I think a lot of people have been caught with their pants down, and the quality just isn't there at the moment. Isn't the quality control just isn't there? Turbo Stream says the advantage of black compost bins is the sun heats them up. That is true. That is true. Clopyralid still sounds wrong in my eyes. Kate says possibly I've never had so much dye. Where did you get your compost? What brand was your compost? Let's throw that out there, Kate. Let's throw that out there. What else am I going to be concentrating on in my allotment or my garden? Now, I haven't been down my allotment as much as I wanted to this weekend, actually. But I did go down there today and just for a quick pop in. Had a quick look around everything, make sure everything was growing well, which it is. Garlic and the onions are doing well. The greenhouse is going to come into its own throughout March. I think a lot of our plants are going to end up going in the greenhouse to make some space and get them growing and making the room. Eventually, obviously, we're going to need plants in our greenhouse to produce things like tomatoes and chilies anyway. But a greenhouse is a great way. If you haven't got a greenhouse, I highly recommend you go and get one because they will revolutionize your gardening anyway. They are such a great tool to have. There's a reason I got let me give my fingers out 3 greenhouses is because they are so good. I would like more. I've even thought about getting a polytunnel, and I've never been a fan of polytunnels, but I've been thinking about getting one in the future. Toby Stream says, no lettuce under the grow lights. Learned my lesson. The porch will be too hot soon, so the early sown onions and cauliflowers are in there for now. Excellent. I do think your porch can get a bit too hot, and that's where the trouble is coming, I think, as we have learned. Digwa says, one benefit of Dalek bins is they look the same. Homemade ones can look bloody awful. They can. You are right there. Homemade ones can look bloody awful. This is one of the reasons. Years and years ago, I built all my allotment beds out of pallet wood. And because pallet wood is always uneven, the pallet wood I had, they all came from different types of pallets, so the wood never really matched. So I never really bothered making sure everything was level because I just thought if you're trying to make pallet wood look good when it's mismatched, it's just not going to work. So you might as well work with it. And it's the same with homemade pallet bins. They can look bloody awful. They're a cheap way of doing it in the beginning. I made pallet bins. I made my compost bin out of pallets. And in the beginning, it looked fine, but they soon rotted away and then they looked awful. Nicholas says, my Daleks are going in the pony field to collect and rot down in situ rather than moving it. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Turbo Stream, and the leaks are up too. Sewed in plastic grape containers as it was deep. Excellent. You're off, Turbo Stream. You are off and getting things growing. In fact, my leaks haven't came up yet, so you're ahead of me. Digwa says, I sowed a load of cauliflowers in my agralians this week. Yeah, agralians, one of these things. I've been thinking about doing the same. I do have cauliflowers that need pricking out, but they were sown in quarter trays. But I think it's coming to that time of year as well, when we're talking about seed sowing, where we don't necessarily need heat to germinate our seeds in the sense of heated propagators and things. Yes, they still need heat, but we don't need in heated propagators as much. Still some that would benefit from it, but not all seeds need to be in heated propagators. Nigel says greenhouses is still damp with cold nights. If you have seeds stored in there, keep some silica gel amongst them to absorb moisture. I recommend that with all your seed packs. Keep some silica gel in your seed boxes. I never store mine in the greenhouse. Mine are in the shed, but I keep them in wooden boxes in the shed with silica gel. Makes all the difference. Ricky Bryan, we use polytunnels and greenhouses at work. The polytunnels are often overlooked, but very handy and slightly cooler in the summer months than greenhouses. Yeah, I really do think, I keep thinking about a polytunnel. I've never been a fan of polytunnels in the past. Reason being is it's those cheap polytunnels as the ones I've had. If I was to have a polytunnel, then I would expect to spend the same as I would on a greenhouse in the future. Whether I get one or not is another thing, though. Jenny says, I have a hexagon-shaped zippy polytunnel grow house to go up. The cover will come off in the winter. I have marquee pegs, haulage straps, etc. My old one stayed up for 4 years with the cover on. You were lucky. You were lucky. I just find that they get ripped, they get cut. Things like that go on. Hopefully this model offers a more full height room. Very important to have full height. Toby Stream says, I agree with Anna RE the size of the compost bins. On my allotment, the compost bays are old Anderson shelters, actually too big, easy to fill, but back breaking to empty. So the thing is, the only thing I would say is that the bigger your compost bin is, the more heat it's going to generate. Therefore, the better quality compost you're going to get out of it, and you're less likely to get seeds that can still live in your compost if you are putting wrong materials in there. The hotter it gets, it's more likely to break down everything and kill everything off that you want in the compost bin. But that's easier said than done sometimes. Nicholas says, I'll be getting a new poly cover for frame this week. There we go. And Diglet says, like a stuck record, we are not allowed tunnels, etc. on the plots. I do wonder how it would change my garden if I could have one. Yeah, you know my thoughts. A greenhouse. That's why I have a greenhouse at home and two on the allotment. They are a tool. They are a tool for getting good plants growing early, growing over the winter, and also for really getting good things like tomatoes and heat-loving crops throughout the summer months as well. I've got in my greenhouse here at home, I've got my auto pots, the 4 pots, the 2 pots. They are all set up and ready to go. And we've got, and they're going to really help us out in the greenhouse. Down on the allotment, of course, slightly different, but I still think a polytunnel would help. Kate says it was Atlantic Garden. The compost Atlantic Garden. Oh, is that the seaweed? The one made from seaweed? I think it is, isn't it? Nigel says, if a tunnel frame is a decent cross-section, use specific polytunnel sheet to recover when the time comes. Absolutely right there. This is what I mean. You've got to buy a decent polytunnel if you're going to have a polytunnel. Nicholas says, are you allowed to make dwarf tunnels 3 foot high or so? I'm allowed on mine. I don't know about Digwell. Turbo Stream, my big compost bays never get hot. I can't fill it with enough green and brown all at once, so it's mainly weeds and kitchen waste. So what you need to do, when you have your brown materials and you have your green materials, put brown materials in one bay, green in the other, and then mix them into the middle bay as you need them, like so. See my action? See what I'm doing? That's the secret to it. It's not easy, but that's the secret to it. That is strange. It was one of the best I have ever used. Rebecca says, talking about that compost, Rebecca says, I have a polytunnel and I love it. It wasn't cheap, but worth every penny, in my opinion. I mainly use it for growing tomatoes. That's what I'm thinking. There's a company I've seen at some of the shows that actually produce very decent polytunnels. They're sort of a cross between a polytunnel and greenhouse, but I think they will last a lot better. Tyler Stream says it's either all weedy green or leaves. You need more brown material. Wood shavings. Go buy some wood shavings to add in or something. Fresh manure will heat a compost bin up quickly as well. And yeah, with seaweed, shame as I love what they do, maybe a one-off. It does seem a bit odd. I've heard a lot of good things about that compost. There's a compost I've been trying that has urban worm castings added to it that I'm quite impressed with at the moment as well. Trying to remember who makes it off the top of my head, but that's really good compost I found. Yes, that's why I was buying a few of the first tunnel ones. Cannot afford them now. LOL. Right, talking of compost, I've got a short video from Rebecca. She's very kindly sent us a bit of a video of the progress on her allotment. Only a short video, but I think it's a good time to share it with you. Somebody's been very, very busy on their allotment, haven't they? Very, very busy. You might recall, which she sent us some pictures and a little video of how it started. Oh, when was that? It must be 6 months ago, and it was just a bit of a mess that she started with, a very overgrown allotment. But seeing all that really did do well. Really did do well. Well done. I love to keep us updated with your progress. Of course, Rebecca does have an Instagram channel, the Little Black and White Cat, if I'm not mistaken. Go check that out as well. Turbo Stream says it's one big bay, Richard. It's okay in theory, but you can't generate enough material. It will never get hot. Okay, fair enough. I apologise for my earlier comment. I got that wrong. Grow More. That's the company I was thinking of. Grow More, with the added urban worm. It's called, what's it called? Black Gold. Their compost that I found to be really, really good. Really, really good. Nigel's also there with Grow More too. Ricky says to Toastring, ask around coffee shops for their machine waste from ground coffee. Really good at getting some quick heat into a pile. Good idea. Good idea. Cool. Talking about Rebecca's video. That's amazing. So Jenny, I had a very inspiring video and a cute coffee mug. Digros is back in a bit. Where's he going? Where's he going? Indeed. Yeah, no, that is great. Like I said, I love to see your videos of everybody's allotment, what everybody is doing. Love to see more of them. Please do keep sending them in because we do love watching them. And it's always good to see what other people are doing as well. I'm hoping we can get a few more videos in on this show as well, as we go throughout the show. Beto says, sorry, watch on the phone whilst watching footy on TV. 1-1 now in extra time. Is that who's playing? Brighton were playing, I heard. Stuart Jackson says, here is another question. If your compost bin is closed, should you water it and how much? Thanks, team. Should you water it? It depends. If your compost looks dry, then add a watering can of water. If it doesn't look dry, then it should be okay. I very rarely add water to mine because it's a closed system. Only if it looks dry do I ever really add anything. But very, very rare. But if it's open, then it does need a bit more watering in the summer. Turbo Stream says, I do add coffee greens, Ricky. I just can't get enough material in one go. The compost I do make is really good, but it takes ages. Rebecca says, thanks, Richard. It's been a lot of hard work. However, raspberries are in and the shed is the next job. You know what? This has been the ideal time. I've said this time and time again, over winter, doing all that hard work over winter, I think pays off. A lot of people will start their allotment now. In fact, when I was on the allotment this weekend, a lot of people have suddenly came out of the woodwork and attending their allotment. And all of a sudden, they've got to get it into shape before they start planting. Well, in a few weeks, we're going to be planting our potatoes. We're going to be planting our onions. I want to be ahead for that. And as Rebecca's done over this winter period, she's got herself in that position that she's ready to go. Rebecca and her husband, I'm sure, has helped as well. I better give him credit, otherwise I may get told off. Nicholas says, I'm still helping build chicken runs for Maid. Yeah, big old chicken runs there going on there. Man United versus Fulham, says Nigel and Beddoes. Excellent, excellent. I haven't watched football in years. I don't have a TV, so I can't watch football. Nicholas says, my veg patch totally overgrown with brambles and weeds. Wooden sides rotted, so massive job. Been so wet before, so busy with few weeks coming. Crack on, crack on. I mean, it's easy for me to sit here saying crack on. I have been I've had the last month unemployed but I haven't been down the allotment that much, granted. I've concentrated on finding a job and being at home. But all throughout the winter, I've always visited the allotment at least once a week for a few hours to do some work, and I think it's paid off. Infrastructure work in particular, I've been doing throughout March. Now, one of the other things that I think it's important to do throughout March, wildlife, making sure birds have got plenty of food and water. Insects, pollinating insects particularly, they need flowers, they need fuel, and they need water, and all those sort of things that we need to consider. Hedgehog homes, frogs and toads, so that we can then try and bring in some of those predatory animals, predatory insects, food, water, habitats, as Jenny has just said. Bring it all in so that they've got somewhere, and then they're going to be hunting the slugs. They're going to be pollinating our flowers when we need them. Nigel says, I plan on rebuilding 4 18-foot by 8-foot raised beds over the next few months. Yeah, you're going to be busy, aren't you? Very busy, but good stuff, good stuff. Rebecca says he'll be pleased. He does the backbreaking work. I just sit with the tea. I'm sure that's not the case at all, but credit where credit's due. Idaho says, to be honest, I haven't got any seeds down yet. March has suddenly overtaken me. Idaho, I think you probably have much colder winters, but your summers are going to be much hotter. So you catch up with us compared to what we have here in the UK. We're much more mild than what you have. Stu says, with my compost bin, I find out the more I turn it, the quicker it becomes ready. But my square bin works better than the round ones. Interesting. I've not really noticed any difference between square and round because I've only got round ones. But that might be an experiment we could do in the future. Digwell says, could you put a link to Rebecca's channel on the show notes? I will try. If not, I will message you. But it's the little black and white cat. Is that right, Rebecca? The little black and white cat on Instagram. Jenny says food, water, and habitats. Talking about wildlife, of course. I have loads of frog spawn. Hope frost doesn't kill them. Oh, frog spawn. I've not seen any frog spawn here just yet, but I'm sure it's going to come. And Toby Stream says, I saw a bee in my garden today feeding off the heather and the crocus. I have something in flower most months at home. That's so important. That is so important because we don't have many flowers in this sort of time of year. And there are bees out. Days like today, there will be bees out. The closest thing that we have in flower, daffodils, of course, and rosemary in flower as well. That will help. Well, that's my coffee over with for today. Rebecca says, the little black and white cat. Many thanks. There you go. The little black and white cat on Instagram. Go check it out. You will see I follow her. That might be a giveaway if you are looking for her. Jenny says, I've made a note for you for Rebecca. So I'll pop it in the other notes later. Thank you. Had for 4 weeks now. FS. Oh, frog spawn, of course. And Digwell says, I have calendula flowering on the pots. Excellent. Have a quick check over on Instagram. Hastings Compost Community has joined and Plot Bay has joined as well. Lovely to see you both. I'm not on Instagram, sadly, says Turbo Stream. This is a trouble. I do multi-channels. I do spread myself across everything. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Blue Sky, B Sky B. Well, no, they're two of the same. Twitter, Threads. I'm on everything basically, but I focus more on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. But we do need we do need to cross promote more, and I'm all for cross promoting other people as well. Nicholas says rats eat all my tulip bulbs from last year. That's annoying, isn't it? Those damn pesky animals. Right, I think it's time that we went to, let's do the cook along for this week, the recipe of the week. Well, it is time for our recipe of the week, and this week you wanted me to make some mulligatawny soup, which happens to be one of my wife's favourite soups, so you're on good grounds there. Now, in this pan here, what I've been doing is just sweating down 1 chopped onion and 2 celery stalks until they were nice and soft. And then what I've then done is added to that some 3 chopped carrots, a chopped apple, a chopped parsnip, thumb-sized piece of chopped ginger, 2 garlic cloves, and we've just cooked it through for 1 minute. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to add some paprika, some cumin, and some curry powder. Already this is starting to smell like it's coming alive. We'll give that a bit of a stir. The aromas from this is absolutely amazing. And now we're going to stick in our chicken stock. And now all I'm going to do, turn the heat up, place the lid on top to try and bring it up to a boil, and then we'll turn it down to a simmer for about 40 minutes, and then we'll come back and do the rest. Okay, it's been 40 minutes and I think that to me looks like it's pretty cooked. So all we're going to do now, I've got my little stick blender, we'll give it a blend. Okay, that looks like it's pretty much there. Now in another pan I've cooked some rice, which we're just going to add in as well. Give it some good stir. And now we got to give this a try. Okay. Should really do this with a ladle, but I'm only having a little bit. Give it a try. Going to save the rest for lunches down on the allotment as it's getting cold, or when I'm at work this week. There's the flavour. I was going to say that tastes a little bit bland, but finally got to me. No, I've enjoyed this. That's nice. That's nice. I think that will do quite a few lunches. Nice to take down to the allotment, as we originally said. Probably not something I would normally go for, in all honesty, but yeah, I like it. I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. I'm sure we can make it better though. I'm not sure how. I have to say, I had that for my lunch today. I made it yesterday, but I had it for my lunch today, and the flavour marinated and it tasted much, much better. Best of all, I mean, my wife is loving it. She loves mulligatawny soup. I gotta admit, it is quite nice. After I've tried it now, it is nice. Nigel says Threads is a duplicate of Instagram. It was meant to be a replacement for Twitter, just like Blue Sky. But yeah, Threads does seem to be a bit of a duplicate for Instagram. I very rarely go on Threads, actually. Turbo Stream says, I was on a few social media but decided to step away from them. Will be reducing my watch times on YouTube as it's affecting my mental health. More gardening this year for me. You know, social media is great, but you have got to learn to pod it down if it is like that. I'm very good. I don't spend a huge amount of time on social media, which is not great as a social media personality. I hate that term, but um, I am quite good at not being on my phone all the time or on social media all the time. Jenny says, I love Instagram. It's grown up and you only see what you want to follow, aka gardening, and more gardening. If only that was the case. So I go on Instagram and obviously there's people I'm following that are gardening people. It pretty much is mostly gardening. But whatever I get suggested is always the OnlyFans people. And I'm not interested in that. I don't know why they seem to pop up on mine all the time. Idaho says, that is interesting. I've never had mulligatawny soup. I don't think it's a thing here. I don't know. Give it a try. Give it a try. Rob says, I'm only on YouTube. Tilly Kate says, Reggie is trying to find Roxy's toy. Yeah, Roxy ran in with that while I was recording. Bless her. What else have we got? What else have I've seen Digger said hi to Brian, but I can't see Brian anywhere. Digger says, I used a stick blender with a metal bottom on my Lucrezette pan. It scratched it to pieces straight in the bin. Roxy's just walked in, by the way. Yeah, that pan that I was using was one that we were given, so we weren't too fussed about it. We just thought that'll be okay. Right, what have we got? Nigel says a few drops of Worcestershire sauce would go good in that. Oh, didn't think of that. I didn't think of that at all. Worcestershire sauce. I will add that next time. Or Tabasco. Yeah, that could work. That could work. Lots of ideas. I just found it was better. As I said, it was better. Like curry, it was better after it had marinated for a couple of days and for a day. Sorry. And it tasted absolutely delicious for my lunch. I had a whole big bowl of it for myself. And I don't normally like soups, if I'm honest with you. I find I don't really see soups as being a meal. For me, they're more a drink. So to have a nice filling meal was nice. I did enjoy that actually, and I did thoroughly enjoy having some nice, nice filling soup today with all that rice and carrots and everything in it. It was nice. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Rob's real name is Brian. With you, with you. Rob is sat there quiet for a change. Now, anybody else? Let's carry on the conversation. Anybody else got anything that they are concentrating on throughout March? What are you concentrating on throughout March? Nicholas says maybe cook spices out for longer before adding the stock. I don't think it's going to make much difference, but maybe. And Jenny says you're not you'd bloody autocorrect. What did she say there? Oh, I can't see it. I can't see it. But I'm sure there's something going on there. Never mind. Scott says dates back to the 1700s. That soup, one of my favourite soups. I've got to admit, I did find it very filling, and that was quite enjoyable because one of the things I think I never really considered with soups is how I never found them to be filling. To me, they were more drink or something we would drink as opposed to eat, not a meal. But as I'm getting older, and I say this because my gran would have soup pretty much every day. As I'm getting older now, soups are becoming a little bit more favourable. I may even have to take soup into work throughout the winter. Stuart says, I'm not going to compare my seedlings to others on social media. That way I won't be disappointed. There's no point. Don't compare anything on social media. You be thick-skinned. You do what you're doing and sod everybody else. I mean, that there is something coming up in the rant about that, but you do you. Don't care what anybody else says. People who are negative will be negative in their life. We are very much about being positive. And you've sown seeds, great. You've sown seeds. Then leggy, well, okay. You've learned from it. Jenny says, I'm concentrating on making all of my gardens with edible foods, woodland jungle, wall top, cottage, and the allotment. That's the way I'm doing it. Everything is edible in my garden. Edible indeed. And Idaho says, seedling envy is real. Don't let it get to you. She says, I got seedling envy and turn it into seedling inspiration. Exactly right. That's the way to do it. Feel inspired. Don't feel envious. Use it as motivation. But you got to remember, some people will sow seeds incredibly early, and it may be they have heated greenhouse, they have grow lights, so they can do that. Other people will sow them incredibly early because they think they're left behind, and they end up with poor seedlings because they don't have heated greenhouse, they don't have grow lights. Everybody's situation is different, and we do what works for us. We don't do what works for you. We do what works for us. Some people, and a lot of people I know, they will wait until they start sowing seeds until March because they don't want to run out of space. Something I can completely understand because we are running out of space here rather rapidly. That being said, we are also moving our seedlings on. So I think we will be okay. That brings me up to what I want to talk about next week. We've still got, don't worry, just under half an hour to go. Next week, I do want to talk about cloches, grow houses, and cold frames as a bit of a conversation for next week, because I think it is the right time to start talking about those, because I think March is when we are really going to need them. Really going to need them. Nicholas says, I've not started any yet, not even chilies. Yeah, I mean, chilies I find need a long growing season, but that doesn't mean that sowing them later doesn't work. They do work. It does work. Jenny says, edible with ornamental looks amazing and benefit each other like companion planting, but on an epic scale, like a potager, as the French would call it. Turbo Stream says, March can be fickle weather. We are in spring this week, but it can and probably will be winter in a week or two. No point sowing too early. Exactly right. Exactly right. Stuart says, one thing I'm doing this year is mixing my veg into my flower garden and flowers in my veg garden, as each garden has different conditions. There we go. More potager. Nigel says, only sown onions and peppers so far. We'll wait another few weeks before the main sowing starts. So I have done some tomatoes like this one here. This is a mini bell, which is in my hydroponics. But we've got tomatoes, chilies, onions, leeks, peppers, lots and lots of other ones, because I've been doing this thing where we're going to see if AI is any good for telling us what to sow. This was one of the conversations we've had on this show, and we got AI to come up with a seed sowing list, and it's working out. It's paying off, but we are got a lot of seeds here. Digwell's the same as Nigel. I've got a photo to share about that coming up a little bit later. Jenny asks, how is the sweet potato? That's a very good question. How is the sweet potato? Let's bring it in to shot and have a look. So there we go. It looks like we're starting to get a few small roots. I don't know if the camera's going to pick them up. Just see it there, just about. Very small. But this bit here, yeah, that bit there is looking very soft. So it's not really done much since last week, in my opinion. But we'll keep an eye and see how it does. Don't forget, if you are growing along with this sweet potato and starting to slips off, change your water tonight. I will be doing that myself. Rebecca says you have to do you. I could never compete with you guys down south. Exactly, exactly. And my conditions are so different, and I've gardened my weather for many years, so you learn what suits. This is exactly my point. It is always you do you, and don't feel that it's a competition. It's not a competition, unless you're a competitive grower, of course. Everybody is different, but we're all doing our own thing. Turbo Extreme says, I sowed cauliflower in the autumn and sowed more in February. I think the February ones will catch up by the autumn ones by the time they are ready to be planted out. So cauliflowers can be a bit fickle. The autumn ones, they should be producing ahead by now, or at least starting to produce a spring cauliflower. But the ones sown in February are probably going to give you early summer cauliflowers, maybe late spring. So they may sort of catch up, but there will be a bit of time in between. Jenny says, don't worry about the soft bit too much. Thank you. I was a little worried about that, but was keeping an eye on it. And Chili Phil says, we're not sure if our sweet potato has gone mouldy. Share a photo. Share a photo. I'd love to see it in the group. Bally Seeing says, I like to sow a few seeds early. If we get a mild spring, it's a good start. If we don't, I've only lost a few seeds. We can re-sow. Yeah, again, it's what works for you. I, as I said, I do sow a lot of seeds early, but I do have a lot of space at the same time and a very forgiving wife. And once we build or replace our shed, we'll have even more space for seed sowing. And having a seed sowing shed purely for starting seeds off is going to be a big benefit. Anna Jones says, only sown sweet peas so far. I'm waiting as well. Fair enough. Digret says, I tried growing by AI and all I got was aubergines and iceberg. Boom, boom. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Jenny says, Chili Phil, hope it's okay. And Turbo Stream, the autumn ones are still in their cells, far too small to plant out. I probably sowed them too late, in all honesty. Thinking about it, my autumn ones are exactly the same. They're actually outside in a cold frame, under a cloche, sorry. Still in their cells. I'm probably going to get them in the ground soon, though. But they are quite small. So don't worry. Mine are doing the same. We'll see how they get on. Rob says, I got some onions with 8 leaves on them. Is that's a lot, isn't it? I have to admit, we were talking, I can't remember who it was who was saying that their onions had flopped over after transplanting. Well, this last week, my onions have started now to stand upright. So we are moving on with those onions. I'm starting to move them into the greenhouse to start hardening them off before they go into the cold frame. But they are starting to move upright. They are starting to move in the correct way. So it's a good sign. I think we're going to end up with way too many onions. We've got to find places to grow them, but that's fine. We can do something with that. And Scott says, has anyone grown purple sweet potatoes? Personally, no, but that would be interesting to see if we could do that. Digwell says, no one place to grow them, really. Interesting. Do purple ones need a bit more warmth? Are they not really for growing in the UK? Or is it a case that you just need to create the right conditions? I think one of the important things we've got to remember, we've spoken a lot tonight about seed sowing and how it's not a competition. We got to do what works for us. But some people, and I'm always fascinated when people do this, people create the correct environments for their plants. Victorian gardeners were well known for this. If anybody's ever been to a stately home and seen the pineapple houses, that's a brilliant example of how the Victorians would manipulate and create the environments to grow pineapples, which of course needed a hot environment in order to grow pineapples. It can be done. And this was before electricity or things like that were a standard. Admittedly, they did have a lot of horses and it did use a lot of manure, but it can be done if you put your mind to it and you know how to do it and you're prepared to make a lot of sacrifices. Turbo Stream says, I've still yet to get my brain to process sowing times. I need to consult my planner more carefully. The best thing to consult, in all honesty, is a soil thermometer. If you're sowing directly in the soil, get a soil thermometer. They're only a few quid. Check your soil temperature. That will tell you more about when to sow than anything else. Jenny says, at this time of year, I sow, but I think that is as much for my mental health as it is for the garden. And as they say, busy the hand calms the mind. A seed planted today is looking forward to tomorrow, etc., etc. Everybody's different. I do a lot of mine early, one, because of content, but two, because I have got quite lucky where I am. But it also works very well for me. Digwell says all sweet potatoes need to be warm to give a good crop. Yep, that's true. That's very true. And Jenny says, I have grown the purple ones. Delicious. They need to be long and thin. And Digwell says, banana house too. Yes, you grow bananas. In fact, the Cavendish banana, which is the most popular variety of banana, was bred in the UK at Cavendish House, I believe it's called. So when you're eating a banana, the chances are it is the Cavendish variety, and that was produced in the UK. Not where you think about it, but it just goes to show that the Victorian gardeners really spent a lot of time in getting the local environments and everything like that to a brilliant way of controlling the temperature and things like that. Right. Let's have a quick check on Instagram. Nothing really going on over there. Now, the mission for this week, I haven't made a video for the mission because what I'm going to do is do it live on the show. Now, the mission this week was to make a paper plant pot because I had a bit of a rant last week, and that rant involved me sort of saying that I cannot find the tiny plant pots. So the idea was perhaps we could make some. So I've got a bit of paper here. This is a bit of scrap paper that I've had a to-do list written on. And what I've got here is a shot glass. And I'm going to use that to make our plant pot because it's quite a nice small size. In fact, I would say it's probably the right size for a plug plant. And all I'm going to do, take it round, wrap it round the shot glass like so. This one does taper in, so it's a little bit tricky. And then if I switch to this camera, what we then do, we fold it over like so, push it down, we take out the pot, and there we go. We have got a paper plant pot. Now we repeat that several times, we can end up with quite a few plant pots. Best of all, this is a nice disposable one, so it can go straight in the ground or straight into a larger pot as and when required. Now, is that mission completed, a mission accomplished, or mission failed? You decide. And don't forget, we need a suggestion for a mission for next week, challenge for the next week, as well as a recipe for next week as well. Stuart says you could sit on the soil with your trousers down. If you can't sit down without jumping up, the soil is warm. There was an old, along those lines, I think it's to do with parsnips. The old gardener's saying was if you can sit on the soil with your trousers down, then the soil is warm enough for your parsnips. I'm on clay soil, so it's quite cold here. I'm certainly not going to be doing that, but I think that goes to prove that the temperature or the point that is being made is that soil needs to be at a certain temperature for parsnips or whatever you're growing to germinate. Turbo Stream says, my late allotment friend used to grow superb seedlings. Years of experience, I suppose. One day my brain will offer this information. Indeed. And D-Work says, yes, all bananas are Cavendish. Not all. There are some other varieties out there at risk of wiped out due to a disease, apparently. Yeah, there is some other varieties that are becoming popular, but for years and years and years, Cavendish was the ones. And Jenny says, I have a banana Musa Bazjura plants. They won't fruit, but you can cook with the leaves. I've just sown some more and a different variety for a bit of interest. I never managed to get our banana seeds to germinate. I tried, but I never managed to get them germinated. Stuart, Jenny says, Stuart, Naked Gardening Day in May. Just saying. Told you, I get loads of OnlyFans on Instagram. I don't think it's Naked Gardening Day. Chili Cake says, I was talking about veg growing with my colleague who moved to the UK from Zimbabwe a year ago. She wanted to grow sweet potatoes and kale. She won't have a problem growing kale. I mean, she can do sweet potatoes. We can do sweet potatoes. It's just you really need a good, decent summer to get decent sweet potatoes. But it can be done. Rebecca says, just a reminder, as everyone took a plot picture for March, I'm collecting mine this year and can't wait to show come December. We are actually in the Facebook group. There has been a lot of people posting their plot shot for the beginning of March. So yes, people are doing it. It's really good to see. I've got to say, really, really good to see. Something I'm really happy with. And yeah, I'm looking forward to December when all these come together and we can see how it all looks throughout the months. Jenny says banana seeds can take over 6 weeks to germinate. I waited much, much longer than that, and it never really worked. Jenny says sweet potatoes great in a pot and up a trellis. The wonderful Peter Seabrook did a great post about it a few years ago. Indeed, Peter Seabrook, one of the nicest people I've ever met, I've got to say. Right, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go to my rant of the week. Oh, hang on. Yeah, it's there. I just realized I'd labeled it up wrong. I'm going to go to my rant of the week and then we'll come back and talk about that. Then we'll go through the photos before closing off. But don't forget, I need a mission and a recipe for next week. Okay, well, it's time for a Richard's rant, and I think my light might run out of power. So if I suddenly go dark and this stays lit, you'll know why. But that might be a good thing because today's rant is a bit of an observation I made. So I was at a car boot earlier today, and this is something I'm just trying to clear a lot of junk. There you go, there's my light gone. Cleared a lot of junk out of my house over the last month. And one of the things I was also selling was some of my plants. These were my tomato plants, my chili plants, aubergine plants, and what have you. Now, I didn't expect to sell lots of them. It's still very early on in the season, but I did sell a few. But some of the conversations I had with some of the people is what I want to have a rant about. Now, first of all, there was a couple who came along. They were looking at them and they decided not to buy. But the female of this couple, she was very much in the frame that, yeah, let's grow them. We've got a garden. Let's start growing stuff. Whereas the bloke just turned around and said, no, you're just going to kill it all. Now, he probably meant it as a joke. But one of the things I hate is when people get put down. I hate defeatism. I hate putting people down. I believe if somebody wants to do something, no matter how ridiculous it might be, we should encourage them no matter what. Now, the second incident that happened, this was somebody that actually did buy a couple of my plants. So I was having a nice chat with this young lady, and she said, yeah, I've started some of my plants off, but they're very, very leggy. How have you done yours? Have you got a greenhouse? I said, yeah, I do have a greenhouse, but my plants are inside under grow lights. And her attitude was, oh, well, that's great, but I haven't got any grow lights, and I thought I'd start them off, and they've gone leggy. And I said, simply put, you need grow lights. They're not that expensive, are they, grow lights, at the end of the day? But they're also such a valuable tool in our toolkit if you want to start early plants. And I say early plants because I do believe aubergines, chilies, peppers, they need a long growing season, so they are well worth starting early. But as far as she was concerned, she was going to waste her time starting seeds off and letting them get leggy because as far as she was concerned, grow lights were not needed. Now, I'm all for people not doing things the way I do them. I completely understand that. But one of the things that I do hate is when people are defeatist or when they are put down. I believe we should all lift each other up. We should encourage each other to do things, but it comes at a price. There are things that we need to be, you need to listen. We need to listen to each other on at the same time. So, my rant is, why are we so quick to dismiss each other? That's my rant. That is the heart of my rant. Right, I don't really know where we're going with it, so I'm going to throw you back to the studio. But let's discuss, why are we so quick to dismiss each other with a different opinion? Indeed, why are we so quick to dismiss each other with a different opinion? And why do we put people down when they want to try and do things? Let's just love each other, embrace each other, and try and uplift everyone, elevate everyone. Um, it was a difficult rant this week, I've got to say, because I couldn't put into words why I was so frustrated or why I wanted to complain about these people. Probably because I'm in a good mood this weekend. I'm in a very good mood this weekend. So it's difficult to be angry or rant about something when I'm in a good mood. But yeah, do you get the gist of what I'm ranting about? What are your thoughts on that? So where were we with the kid? We're in the comments. So Digwell says, I remember as a kid that all bananas had a big black seed on the base of them. Bred out of them now, though. I did not know that. I don't remember that at all. It's before my time, but we learn something there every day. Andrew Norris has joined. Hey guys, only just got here. Family birthday evening, Richard. Good evening to you. Hope you are well. Digwell says, keep them moist. Talking about what? The banana seedlings. Or what? Stuart says, mission for next week. Could you make an insect home using only natural materials? We've done that a few times over the last few months. We've got the one on the allotment and the one we built at home. So could do with a different mission. Andrew says, just arrived. Family birthday. Evening, Richard. Hey, everyone. Well, he's repeated himself. Hello, Andrew. Hope you are well. What else have we got? Fulham has won, apparently. There we go. Did not know that. Nigel says, do not dismiss anything until you've tried it and consider the results. Yeah, actually, Nigel, that is a very good point. Don't dismiss anything. I'm sure when Charles Dowden came out with his no dig gardening, there was a lot of people who dismissed that a lot. Dismissed the whole growing or no dig gardening, and now it's considered to be a pretty much standard thing. It's very popular. But yeah, I agree. Do not dismiss anything until you've tried it and then consider results. And let's not forget that it may not work for you, but it may work for the person who did it originally. We're all different at the end of the day. Stuart says, this is why I like our group. It's always positive and no negativity. I do try and keep on top of being positive and try not to allow negativity, because we don't want negativity. Roxy, Jenny says, mission, review on your cloches, cold frames, etc. to tie in with next week. You want me to just review them? Okay, I see what we could do. Andy Jones says, I agree with Stuart about the positivity. Yeah, I think I want to be positive. Digwell says, who is the fool? The person who will not change their attitude or the person who tries to convince them to? Oh, that is a good question. That is a very good question. The person who isn't a fool is those that are open and keep an open mind. Yeah. Good question there, Digwell. Very good question. I know who is not the fool, though. I am my own worst critic sometimes. I need to go easy on myself this year. There we go, Tabastream. It said, go easy on yourself. But just remember, everything's an experiment, is all I say. Everything's an experiment. Go easy on yourself. If it doesn't work, you can always try again. CD, Charles Down did not invent no dig, he just resurrected it. Yes, I don't know if I said invented. I meant he brought it to public eye, you could say, more than anything. But yeah, reinvented it, but yeah, brought it back to public eye. Rebecca says, mission, could you grow something from kitchen scraps? That's not a bad mission either, actually. We're actually running an experiment on the podcast this year where we're growing things from stuff we can buy from a supermarket. And that could be we've grown garlic from supermarket garlic. We're going to try carrot tops and things like that. But yeah, well, we've got the cloches or the kitchen scraps. What do you want? Or visit garden centres and shops to see what cloches, etc. are out there. B&M, there's a B&M out the entrance to my work. All getting in stock now. Perhaps that's an idea. Ricky says, I always tell the lads I teach, we need mistakes and failures in crop to learn and improve. It's only negative if you don't take something from it and improve it for next time. Again, I could not agree more. I watched him on the live last night, and he admitted he did not invent no dig. Yeah. I'm trying to keep it simple, but yeah, he didn't invent no dig. I would say before Victorian gardeners, again, we pretty much never dug anyway. Idaho says, I told someone I was gardening, growing food. They said it sounded like a good goal, but a lot of work. I don't disagree. It is a good goal. It is a lot of work, but it doesn't mean that it's not worth doing. It is a lot of work, but so's going to work. We still go to work every day, don't we? Unless you're retired. We did it in the nursery where I worked in 1973. I think talking about no dig. For me, failure is just the first step to success. In fact, the word fail, do you know the word fail stands for first attempt in learning. So failure is the first attempt in learning. I would imagine even the Romans even did no dig. Failure is not learning from your mistakes. Again, that is very true. Failure is not learning from your mistakes. And a sign of somebody insane is somebody that tries to repeat the same experiment with exactly the same way with the same results. Also, anyone can make a mistake. Only a fool repeats a mistake and expects different results. There we go. You're wording it better than me tonight. You're wording it much better than me. So we need a recipe and we need a vote on whether you want me to do the cloche mission or the kitchen scraps mission. It's up to you guys to decide. Shall we have a look at some of your photos that has came in this week? So first of all, Greg's plot shot for the beginning of March. I said there's quite a few people who've taken photos of their plot shot. This is the first one for tonight. And look at that. It's looking great, isn't it? Lots of work going on, getting ready for the growing season. Chili Kate, or is this both of the chilies, I should say. This is the plot shot for the beginning of March. And it looks great, doesn't it? There's lots of stuff going on. It's looking nice, neat and tidy. Really, really ready to get growing. Now, these seeds are go, go, go. We've spoken about seed sowing a lot tonight because a lot of people, we don't know how it's going to perform or anything like that. But Lee's seeds are going well. And you can see there's some tomatoes. Is that a yellow pear? Looks like yellow pear to me. Lots of stuff that is there and ready to get going. Now, Steve has illuminated his greenhouse. This is the grow lights in his greenhouse. He said that he's notified the electricity board that he's going to need more power, and he's also notified the police that it's not a drug den. Grow lights don't need that much power, though, do they? But this is what we need if we want good, strong plants. We need grow lights for good, strong plants when there's a lack of light. Now, some Beddoes humour as always. It's a beach rosalind. There's nothing to garden. But hey, we all know that we will go out into the garden. We'll try and garden wherever we are on holiday. Now, Dean was asking if his asparagus grown from seed was okay, because his wife was taking the mick a little bit, thinking it looked very thin. But actually, this is your first year seedlings. This is a sign that they are growing well. And they will bulk up over the coming years. Now, Amanda was having a day down on the allotment. This was at the beginning of the week, and I think it was very, very cold. Even her little dog is wrapped up warm. Now, this photo was sent to me last week, and I forgot to send it, but this is Nigel's LED light setup in his VitaPod heated propagators. As you can see, they are looking great and like they are starting off really, really well. Makes all the difference, these LED grow lights. You can also see there's, I want to say tin foil, but it's space blankets wrapped around to reflect the light as well. And here you are outside, you can see a bit more. And what I like is this sort of grow tent on the one nearest the right-hand side. You can see it's got a lot of potential in this. And these are on Vitapods, if I'm not mistaken. There's something I really should look into getting in the future. Now, if you do want to send in some photos, and you please do keep sharing your photos, post in our Facebook group. You can send to me via social media, or you can email me, richard@adventuregroundpodcast.co.uk. That's richard@adventuregroundpodcast.co.uk. And please do keep sending your photos in. We really do love seeing them. They always give us plenty of enjoyment. Andrew has voted for the kitchen scraps. We used to do the carrot top trick in primary school. Idaho says, but I know lots of people have other hobbies. Exactly right. Rebecca says, don't they all look great? Talking about the plot shots there. And my brother hates gardening. He spends his free time creating miniature models. If that's what he wants to do, that's what he wants to do. And Digler says, I need to put the second level of my Vitapods soon. I really do need to look at getting Vitapods for next year. Well, we are coming to the end of this week's episode. There was 2 votes for the kitchen scraps mission, so I think that's what we're going to do next week. We haven't came up with a recipe yet, so what I think we'll do, we're going to have a fallback plan. Scott and Jenny, you two have a conversation in our group, and you let me know what you think I should cook for next week's show. That's going to be our backup plan, give you something to look forward to. Next week, we're going to be talking about, as I said earlier, cloches, cold frames, and things like that. Now, if you've got any photos for your cloches, your cold frames, we would love to see them. Please do send them in so that we can have a chat about those as well. And I think that is just about it. I think we've done everything that I can think of. I know we're going into overtime, but I do think that is everything. We will be back again next Sunday at 6. I can see Nigel was saying good luck on my first day, Richard. Thank you very much. It's flown by, isn't it? But we will be back again next Sunday at 6, where we're going to do it all over again. Right, guys, you take care. I'll speak to you again next week. Please do send in photos of your cloches and your cold frames, though, or even videos. That would be great. Right, guys, you take care. Speak to you again next time.